Well, obviously it's a short week, and no better way to put the last one to bed, because there was not a whole lot of time to dwell upon the things that have happened. It's a one-game season, and I think our guys truly understand that. And so we back at it really, really fast, and there's no time to waste. And this is what makes college football the greatest sport out there. And this is what makes college football so interesting, right? Is this in particular week, right? Rivalry week. And I've always said that's why I've loved college football. I've grown up my whole entire life understanding and knowing about rivalries. And so, regardless of what has happened and what happened this past weekend, it's one of those things where, hey, we knew darn well that after Saturday night it was going to be about one thing. It was going to be about the battle for the axe, one of the oldest rivalries in the history of the game. And so coming in here on Sunday for every one of our guys, for every one of these coaches, that's what it was about. And like I said, it wasn't easy. It's not easy to get over the things that happened last week. But this is the best way to be able to do it, is understanding that everything's on the line. We've got an opportunity that's in front of us. At the beginning of the year, it was something we talked about. During camp, it was something we talked about. And then it's here. And, like I said, in a short week, there's a lot of things that we had to kind of do a little bit sooner, a little bit quicker. But like I said, I think it was the best thing that's happened to us, and it's given us a great opportunity to put the past behind us and recognize what is in front of us, and that's most important.
Question?
You're looking forward here, but after the game, it looked like there was some type of interaction between yourself and Don Raiola, the line coach from Nebraska. Can you explain
what he just showed me? I don't really know.
I think you were walking away.
I mean, no. I mean, I don't know if he was talking to Casey. Somebody said something. I don't know. I just said it looked like maybe he said something to me, but I had no idea, and I had no idea that was even something. So if it was, I didn't spend a whole lot of time thinking about it.
We saw James Thompson out there for a handful of snaps. One, how, even though he's back, how limited is he? And since I don't know this question, I'll ask, and it might sound silly, but in terms of the medical redshirt possibility, does this take that off the table?
No, I don't think it does. There's some leeway with possible still having a chance to have another year for him. I think there's waivers and things like that. But just looking at him right now, it was a situation where we thought we could get a few snaps out of him. But I don't think it ended up being kind of what he thought and what we thought. And so it was very limited. We'll see if those things can grow for him. It really comes down to, a confidence level and a comfort level for him more than anything.
Luke, you talked a little bit about this after the game, just the inconsistency of the whole team, but looking at the defense specifically, have you been able to pinpoint some things that just haven't been able to carry through week to week?
Well, no, I mean, the great thing about college ball is you get something different every week, right? That's the difference between the NFL. Not that, they don't do things different in the NFL, but it's pretty consistent in what you see. And, we've played really well, and then we've had some times where we've struggled. And when it comes down to struggling, it comes down to the fundamentals. It comes down to the little things. It comes down to meet and feed blocks. It comes down to leveraging the football, and it comes down to tackling. And when we've had our lapses, that's where it's been. And that's why I said it might be hard to pinpoint, like it's not some schematic thing. It's a little bit easier once you watch to say, okay, guys, we just got to get back to the basics of what we do and making sure we're leveraging the football, we're tackling, and we're playing more sound and square. So, sounds like a simple thing, but it doesn't always make it the easiest thing to correct up.
Luke, when you look at this week in terms of guys that could potentially come back, have you had conversations with anybody, or is it just straight football, Minnesota?
No, during the bye weeks we had some conversations with guys and kind of started to lay some things out for guys. We've obviously got a lot of things scheduled for the next few weeks, but it's kind of one of those things that's a little bit tougher of a time, but we had a plan going in the year that, hey, in the bye week, this is going to be the opportunity when we were going to try to get together with some of the guys. But there's a lot of guys to be talked to, and so there was only a select few, kind of the older guys that we kind of sat down with, and the younger guys and the guys that we've got a lot of things scheduled for the next few weeks. But like you said, as you get into those last 3 weeks of the season, it's not where you want people's minds and thoughts to be, whether they're players or us as coaches. So it's a delicate kind of situation, but it's not one that we can just put behind us and say it's not something that's going to be important to us.
Mark?
Yeah, going back to some of the ups and downs of the season, playing at home, in general, your teams play better and probably a little more consistent at home. Does that offer any level of comfort?
No, it does. I mean, like you said, rivalry games, you throw records out the window. You throw sometimes even the home field advantage out the window. It comes down to who wants it more. And there's a lot of things that are going on our plate. There's a lot of things that have been ups and downs. There's got some guys that are bumped, bruises and nicks. But it comes down to, regardless if it's Friday at 11 o'clock or if they'd have put it at Saturday at night, it comes down to a one-game season. It comes down to a battle for an axe. And anybody that can't get up for that doesn't belong to either one of these places.
Piggybacking on Zach's question, was Tyler Van Dyke one of those guys you had a discussion with, and is that a realistic option?
Yeah, I sat down with Tyler. I mean, he's got a long way to go, and his mindset is he thinks he would like to have another year, but he still doesn't know how well he's going to heal, how fast he's going to heal. He's obviously feeling better and he's moving around, but there's still a long way to go for him, and I think that there's some things that are on his mind.
So Luke, I know you guys were without Hunter and Will against Nebraska. Is there any status update about what their availability could be coming up for Friday?
No, we don't know. Those are things that we're going to have to play out through the week. There's a lot of guys that are kind of in a similar situation that, as you get to the end of the year, these things are not abnormal, probably a little bit more than what I've been used to, but, it's a grueling season. It's the Big Ten is not the easiest road in the world, and, so we're going to have to play it out, right? If we got Friday games, so things are a little bit early. Today's a Monday, we're going to go out and practice, so what I would normally tell you on a Monday is we don't know. What I would tell you today is we really don't know, because things are happening a little bit faster. But we'll have to assess that as we move through the week.
Colton, yes. Look, one of the things that Braden mentioned after the game was using more shifts and motions with the offense this week. Was that something that you guys just felt like could help, or what do you think it does for the offense?
I think when you're coming out of the huddle, it gave us an opportunity to maybe do some of those things a little bit more. With how we had to go about it, with not being able to signal quite as much and as efficiently. We thought that was the best way for us. So it was something that was able to be added because you're coming out of the huddle. It wasn't something we didn't have, in the system of some sorts. It was just something we were able to use a little bit more because of, the structure in which we had to go about things.
Look, I think you said Sunday after the game that the trying to continue the bowl game streak wasn't necessarily something that added more pressure, but is it something you'll talk about at all with these guys, given how long it's been, and what do you think that could mean?
If that means more than what the battle for the axe does, maybe to some it does. But I know this, that when we start at the beginning of the season, we talk about rivalries, we talk about the battle for the axe, we talk about the history of the game, more than we talk about different types of streaks and things like that. I'm not downplaying it, I'm not saying it's not incredibly important, I'm not saying it's another thing that's on our plate. But when it gets down to this last week, it's about one thing. It's about the rivalry, it's about preparing to play it in the most important game of the year.
Mark?
Bryson Green, now he has the full, he's back 2 games, but what is he, now that he's back, what is he brought to that group?
Well, he's got a mentality that's great to have back. He's been a guy that's been battling for 5 weeks to get back on the field. I think 2 weeks ago he got on the field for a few snaps. Last week he got on the field for a lot more snaps. He's a guy that's obviously feeling better and better each and every week, and he's great to have back out there.
So just looking at Minnesota right now, I know they took Penn State to the wire on Saturday, but just what do you see, especially on offense, from a team where Darius Taylor's still a workhorse, but also like the passing game's opened up too?
No, they've done a really good job. I think they've played well all year. It's a really good football team. I think they are solid across the board, man. They can throw the football, they can run the football really, really well. But you can't sleep on the things that they can do throwing the ball as well. They got some dynamic guys on the outside. They use their tight ends really well. So it's as balanced of an offense as we've seen all year.
Nick?
Hey, look, I know that Vinnie's had a lot of big moments this fall, but career high in yards, obviously a score on Saturday. Just how kind of impactful has that consistency been this fall, and how has it been so important to the offense?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those guys that we really kind of felt coming along through spring football and just, through the winter of how he built his body and earlier in the season, maybe he didn't get as many of those shots. We actually removed him some from the kick game on the punt return because he was kick returning. But he's a guy that we felt like, obviously, earlier, we got him some shots at USC and things like that. He's just continued to grow. I'm not saying he's scratching the surface because he's older than a 1 or 2 year guy, but just what he has continued to do and his ability to build his body, his ability to withstand, through the entire season has been really impressive, and we're going to rely upon him a lot.
Going back to defense quickly, do you see anything schematically that you guys can improve to help the pass rush? Because it just seems like that's been one of the consistent struggles throughout the year.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things, right? I mean, we'd be able to put some guys on some more edges. We brought pressure. Last week was not our best. The week before was pretty good. And that's where you talk about the inconsistencies of what you need to do. We get so tied up in sometimes it's about scheme. And I'm not saying it's not, and there's things that aren't important, but it's about recognition, it's about the intent, it's about the ability to react to some of those things. And if you really kind of said it, that's where we probably didn't do as good a job last week. Give them credit, they did some max pros, they did some things they chip and then release that slowed us down in some of those ways, but we got to continue to find more ways to be dynamic, whether it's stopping the run or even in the pass rush.
Going back to the conversations thing, does it complicate it at all that you don't have an offensive coordinator? Does that at all complicate things for you?
No, I mean, like I said, we communicated during the bye week.
I guess I mean conversations going forward.
No, I don't think so. I think that we have a plan that'll be, ready to be put in place in a lot of ways. And I think that, like we talked about, I'll just be honest with you, whether it's in recruiting, with, obviously not having an offensive coordinator, or it's with our own guys, you got to have faith and belief in what it is that we're doing as a whole, and I think that's where, to me, the guys within our program, the guys that, that you're recruiting, that's the way we've always recruited, that's the way we've kind of kept these guys within the program to say, it's bigger than any one person, it's any bigger than anybody that in theory is calling the plays. Now, quarterbacks, obviously, who's coaching them and things like that, to me, are really important, but to say, well, who's going to call plays? Well, no, what direction do you want to go? What's it going to look like? And do you have faith and belief in me and what it is that we're doing?
Luke, just with Axe Week and just the tradition, I know Casey's on staff and he obviously played in these games, but anybody else that you're hoping to plan out to speak about the importance of this of the game?
I'm not a guy that brings in people to speak. We've got guys within this program. We've got guys that it's meant the world to them. They've bled it, whether it is Casey. There's a lot of guys that are new here that if they don't understand, shame on them, because we talked about it in fall camp, we talked about it in spring football. I'm not one of those that think that because somebody comes in and gives them a rah-rah speech that all of a sudden things are going to change. It means a hell of a lot more when it comes from Aaron Witt or somebody within your own program that can get up there and a guy that they respect. Not that they wouldn't respect somebody walking in the door. They respect obviously anybody that's played in this game, especially the guys from our history here. But I think just even where we are right now, the guys within the walls in that locker room are what have the most impact.
Any further questions?
Thanks,